All right, everybody, we'll go ahead and get started. So my session is construction math, okay? That's what I've titled my session. My name is Kurtis Wright, and I do not have the traditional teaching pathway. I went option 6 to become a teacher. I started out in construction management. I love construction. I did not leave construction because it was horrible. I left construction because of two main reasons. First and foremost, I was never home with my kids. She was like 4 at the time. My 4 or 5-year-old got excited one night because I made it home in time to tuck her into bed. So I got to see them on Sundays. I was working Monday through Saturday, crazy hours. I put 80,000 miles on my truck in 1 year. But the second reason I got out of construction and into teaching is because some of the best advice I ever got was do something in life that will make a difference in somebody else's. Whereas I thought that was construction because you're building something for somebody, you're fixing something for somebody, but there's a lot of people who would take advantage of someone in construction. I saw that several times. So I wanted to get into something where I felt meaningful. And whenever I was choosing a career path, it was either become a teacher, a high school math teacher, or go into project management, and teachers don't make any money. So I left that in the wind later to come back to it. So with that being said, that's one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. I do not regret it one bit. However, I still have the desire and the love for construction. With this construction background, I'm able to relate to several students, okay? I'm able to provide a hands-on learning through this project we're going to do today that takes kids who do not traditionally perform well in the classroom and takes them to a whole new level, okay? So you always have your top learners who are doing awesome. And when we started this project, my top learners got pushed back on their heels. They were scared. They didn't like it. Why are we doing this? I can't do this. You haven't taught me this. Whereas we have covered everything. We just didn't apply it all together. And then you have your D student who does what he has to get by, who says, what, you're going to let me swing a hammer? And it flips. He's the one leading the class. He's the one answering all the questions. I say he because that was my personal experience with this connection. There were several girls swung a hammer better than I did my first time. So I'm not going to put that to shame or nothing. So don't think that. But I have that student. I'm going to talk about that student for a second. Me and him started off rough. Virtually, he didn't care about geometry. This is his second time taking it. He don't care. He don't care about me. Who am I? Who am I to him? I'm a teacher standing up and telling him, you got to do this whenever he's able to get by with what he thinks he doesn't need. And that's all virtual. He doesn't give me a chance. He comes to class. I talk to him about construction, talk to him about the motorcycle that he likes to drive. I connect with him in all this background and interest that I have because we're like-minded. And he opens up to me. Now he's the one saying, hey, when's the next time we can do a project? When are we going to go to the shop again? We're doing radicals now. And his first response is, oh, this isn't fun. I don't like this. I said, no, just bear with me. We're going to get into some trig and you'll have fun with it. All right. So now he tries for me and just takes it at face value. So I'm able to make that connection. And this is my 4th year teaching, and I've made that connection with a student every single year. And I think that has a lot to do with my background, where I come from, and the people I worked around before I came into education. These students see a real life example. These students are able to make a connection, and that hooks them right away. The different pathways it helps with. So at our school, we offer a welding pathway. We offer diesel mechanic pathway. We partner with Barron County, who offers a carpentry pathway. a construction math class that would offer an additional pathway would also take the basics of reading a tape measure, reading blueprints, that every single one of those classes have to have. If you take my construction math class as a prerequisite, now when you go into welding, you have an additional 2 weeks to weld. So I'm helping the welding student who, yeah, they don't want to build, but they want to weld. Well, you still have to read blueprints to weld. You still have to be able to read a tape measure, which is fractions. So I think this construction math would help several different schools, because you have those students who love to do hands-on stuff. In this construction math, in this activity that we're doing now, I started off with a design think that Dale helped me with. And in this, we broke down, maybe this will come up. We're able to break down what the client needs. So I went to my students and I said, okay, we're going to roof a house. I spent 3 years in the roofing industry as a project manager. I done all the billing, done all the material supply, showed up on the job site. If you're getting your house roofed, I'd be the one to call you after you talk to your salesman and say, hey, we're going to be out. I'm going to deliver material tomorrow. We'll be out the next day and we're going to roof your house. So I was the point of contact from the time that you decided you needed a new roof to the time it was over. So I said, we have clients. One's in South Beach, Florida. One's in Louisville, Kentucky. And we're going to roof their house. And we're going to determine what is needed. So our client needs are given to our students by saying, we need a house roofed. We need a new roof because we're either building a house or it has a leak. Then we have to do a cost analysis. And to effectively do a cost analysis, we have to calculate the measurements of our roof. And we have to calculate every bit of material needed to roof this house. And then we have to look up the cost associated with that. The brainstorm idea, so the students done a full material takeoff based on the weather that it was applying to, okay? So in South Beach, Florida, you have hurricanes. They had to look up the average wind speed there and the average wind speed of a hurricane and the average amount of snowfall, because you don't have snowfall there. In Louisville, Kentucky, you had to look up all the same criteria, but you had to look up the amount of snowfall. So, and the reason I chose that is because of the different climates, and that changes the type of material. So here in Kentucky, you know, you don't have to have a shingle that is going to withhold an average 115 miles per hour wind speed. Okay. So, you know, you have an 80 mile per hour. That's the lowest grade of shingle that you have, 80 mile per hour, and you're good. You're good to go. But here in Kentucky, you also have to worry about snow. So just a little bit of background. When snow sits on a shingle, so here's your roof, okay? And you have shingles on here. Snow sits on this. We had a heavy snow and it's just piled up here. And snow will run down to the bottom and sit on the bottom. Well, as your day goes on, it stays cold outside, and the heat from underneath your house will warm up and start to melt the snow from the underside up. So the under the snow turns to water, but it never completely runs out because it's trapped in by the snow on top. And then night comes and it drops the bottom out of the temperature again. And now this freezes. And when this freezes, all that water underneath freezes. So now your water expands. So it creeps back up into your shingles. So if you don't have ice and water shield in the appropriate places, or our starter strips that we're using here, then you're going to have water damage and you're going to think you have a leak, and then you can never find it, when in reality it's just happening in the wintertime. So in Kentucky, the code is anything that's a 312 pitch or below, you have to have ice and water shield. You can't use synthetic felt there. Whereas in Florida, there's no need for it except for roof penetrations. So I gave this information to our students, and we developed the cost difference between roofing in Florida and Kentucky. And in doing so, day one, everybody got the same roof design because I want to know the cost difference based on weather only. So we're roofing the exact same house. So this is the house, and it's broken up. They get this diagram day one with this sheet. And all it is calculating the area. This is where my high-level students freaked out. They know how to calculate area, but you give them this and tell them to calculate area, they struggle. All right. Day two, we have the material needed. Ice and water shield is there. Everybody started off with one roll, and then they had to come to me based on the weather, and we had to calculate what was needed after that. So price per material for the amount needed. Actually, that was day three. Day two was the material needed 10% waste. Okay. So they went ahead and put some prices on here, but you was just supposed to figure out what was needed. So I broke this down into 3 days before. And then we had a fourth day to compare prices based on Louisville or Kentucky. So this was Florida, and it's $138.70 per square. That's not per square foot, that's per square of shingles. So 1 square of shingle covers 100 square foot, okay? And there was 28 squares, so 2,800 square foot to roof this house, okay? Whereas with my other group, they roofed in Kentucky, and they used a different shingle, so a less expensive shingle with more ice and water shield. If I can get this to scroll down. They were $133.32 per square. So what, $5.50 something cheaper per square to roof in Kentucky because you're using a lower grade shingle. Now, from a roofing standpoint, I would never put a 3-tab on my personal roof. If you do, that's fine, but for a $5 difference per 100 square foot, I would go ahead and bump up to a architectural shingle with that higher wind rating because we do have tornadoes and it just looks better. So that's just personal preference. I don't know what I've done now. But then we done all this. And like I said, I had my students who were freaking out, who did not like this. And then I had my hands-on students who understood this because they had done roofing before. Then we went to the shop. And now we're going to actually do what my students done in the shop. So everybody's going to get a sheet of paper that I'm going to ask you to fill out as we do this. And I will go ask the volunteers to come up and help proof this. Don't feel comfortable, you don't have to. It would make it feel a lot smoother. I have all material needed. But while we're roofing this, I use this as a way to go back and review the entire first unit of geometry. So here I am with the kid who did not log on to Google Meets in August, and I'm expecting him to pull information from that first unit while we're roofing it. All right, so he's knocking it out of the park so far. And now he has to go off of information that he doesn't know. How do you all think he performed? Do you think he was able to answer these questions as we roofed? He was. So whenever I put it in a way that he understood it, even though he didn't pay attention that first unit as much, he was really able to answer all these questions right on the spot. So if we can get a few volunteers to come up, 1 or 2, 2 or 3. I have hammers, nails, synthetic nails I'm going to start with. Come on. So this is our synthetic felt. Anybody else want to come up and help? Come on. This is our synthetic felt. And as many of you want, come on up. So our synthetic felt is an underlayment. This side over here. This is an underlayment that goes on your roof first, okay? And my roof represents a plane. Okay, so on your first page, your first question there, you have an OSB as a plane. You have the underlayment, which is a plane. And we're going to secure them together. So number 1, we're covering, we can put OSB, we can put synthetic felt, just put 2 or 3 in at the right at the long side. It just doesn't matter. Sorry, here you go. What do you think represents a point? Next. That's good. Our nail heads represent a point. So if we talk about this for a second, our nail also represents a small line, right? Mm-hmm. What happens when this line intersects these planes? It creates a what? Perpendicular. It is well, some spots are perpendicular. Sometimes. But what is this nail head? It's a point. A point. So in my first unit of geometry, I spent 2 days explaining that when a line intersects a plane, it creates a point. Now, if I would have done this, and I said, you got a nail, that's a line, and it's going to hold this felt, which is a plane, to this OSB, which is a plane, by intersecting them, it's going to create a what? A point. How many people would actually forget that? So these kids are able to make this connection, okay? So our lines. Anybody else wants to come up? Just come up anytime, okay? Our lines, we have drip edge. Our drip edge goes at the bottom and on the sides. So around our perimeter. Now, whenever I do this, my perimeter, why do I need drip edge? Don't want to put a nail or anything in that. Just there you go, perfect. Has anybody ever heard the term? That's all right, two's good. Why does water pull water? Because the bonds, the science teacher can explain this better. Why does water pull water? Anybody? It attracts, okay? So if I have a roof here in my shingles and the water runs down, at the edge of this shingle, it's going to curl above, below that shingle, right? And it will run back up. So to keep that from happening, we have a drip edge here. And that's going to seal through that, and when it hits this metal, it'll go ahead and run down. So you protect this edge of the wood by using drip edge. That's the purpose. All right, so drip edge goes around all parts of the material. Around the perimeter, yes. So now here's another key. You always want to go from the bottom up, because if I run out and the roof is going to be longer than 10 or 12 foot, and these only come in 10 or 12 foot sticks, you're going to have to splice them. So I put one here, and I want to lay over top, because if I laid on the bottom, it would run in behind, because water's going to run down. All right. So go ahead and put that one on.
Sure to me. Oh, thank you.
So let's talk about complementary angles. Complementary angles are angles that add up to 90 degrees. Now, what do you think these two pieces of drip edge meet at? 90 degrees. So an example of complementary angles would be 90 degrees, okay? And on number 5, where it says intersection of two planes, so imagine this drip edge as a separate plane, okay? And it intersects and crosses my underlayment. What does it make? Right here. Straight line. So intersection of planes makes a line. Okay, so I had a lot of trouble getting students to understand that, okay? And we already covered when a line intersects a plane, it creates a point. So parallel lines. Now, we have starter right here, okay? This starter on one side is really sticky, okay? Now, this starter is going to bond because of the tar to this that we put down, okay? So I always want to have a 1/4 inch overhang. So I measured this out, cut it off. So I want to have a 1/4 inch overhang. So my starter is 9 inches exactly. So if I want to have a 1/4 inch overhang, I need to measure up 8 3/4. So I come here, I measure up 8 3/4. Yeah. This is actually the one I hate the most, but I gave it to the student.
Oh.
8 3/4. And then I want a straight line. So you have a chalk line. You want to hold that there? Who wants to pop it? Okay. So I have a nice blue line right there. And this chalk line is parallel to what? My edge. Okay, it's a parallel line. Chalk line with my edge. And this is where that student that knew nothing from the first unit, I said, what do parallel lines have in common? The exact same slope. Before anybody else did. What he said. It made my day. So we have tar strips down here at the bottom. That's what you want towards the bottom of your roof. This peels off and it's sticky.
so that way it will bond tight, okay? Now, what's the reasoning behind this? Well, first of all, whenever it congeals like that, it congeals around any nails, which does not let any water seep in whenever I have that snow melt, okay? Now, for time's sake, we're not gonna go at the edges with this, but you should go around the full perimeter with your starter. Also, the purpose of a starter strip is so that your shingles will seal tightly. Some people will take a shingle and flip it upside down. There's not as much tar here as there is here, okay? Therefore, it doesn't hold as tight. And then, when you have a wind, it'll pick up more. This seals from here to here. So it's a better seal. So you're not going to have a gust of wind come by and peel the whole top off, okay? So, if you're roofing your house, don't skip the starter. So we start our first one and we line it up right here. And there's a white line right here. And this white line is not where I put nails. I put it right above it. You see this strip right here?
Yep.
That's where I put nails. Put 4 nails in. So you're supposed to put 6 in. Right. So perpendicular lines meet at what? 90 degrees.
Yeah.
So I skipped that a while ago. Where this drip edge meets this creates what? So drip edge to shingle is an example of a perpendicular line. Segment addition. So this is essentially a segment. Okay. Do you think one of these is going to go the length of a roof? No, so I'm going to have to add it to it. Right here. I'm not going to do it right now, but that's essentially what you're doing. You're adding to it. Some students really struggle with segment addition. I usually spend 2 weeks on that. I had a student who never got it. Now we've done a roofing project and we've done a review over it, click for him automatically. So you always want to offset your shingles. So you come up here, right here. And you line it up on your white line. And now you're going to nail here, okay? We go ahead and overhang and just leave it right now. But you put 3 shingles, y'all can go ahead. You put 3 shingles down. All right, 1, 2.
So you offset them like in a diagonal.
In a diagonal, because you don't want your seams lining up. Because if all your seams line up, it creates a pocket for rain to travel. Okay,
Makes sense.
so we offset it in this diagonal. Now have some hanging over.
I'm too short, sorry.
Now, when I have some hanging over, I take a shingle and I want a straight line. So I hold it there. You take your knife. I can't cut it here. And I save that piece. I save this piece, okay? So now, take this piece that was cut, and I put it there. And go ahead and put a nail or 2 in that. And I put this last piece here, even though I got a crooked line. I couldn't have cut it through. Now I'm able to do my segment addition, okay, which is here.
In this or no?
I'd come in right there, but yeah, that's good.
When you're watching me, I get nervous.
All right, here, you want to get it started?
Yeah, get it started.
So, then I come back. I'm gonna go ahead and cut that off, even though we don't have to right now, because I'm gonna use that piece again. I'll start it, you can finish it, okay? Like that, huh?
Yeah.
Can I just keep going up? Now, I'm able to offset my shingles, and my shingles represent parallel lines and also segment addition, okay? Go ahead and grab the next one, put it up there next to that one. So, next year, I'm gonna save these mock-ups. I think I can talk to a roofing supply place and get more shingles, and I'm gonna start my whole entire first unit with this next year. Instead of taking 3 weeks on my first unit, I can take 1 week and then apply it hands-on. I'm able to take my kids and they're able to have a way better understanding of how this works, okay? And then later, whenever I go into scale, I can do the material takeoff. So the whole thought behind this is those kids that are hands-on are able to get the same amount out of their class as the ones who traditionally just do well.
I'm not confident in my ability.
You did great.
There you go.
Now, the next thing I want to point out is notice when we roof this, if I peel this up, each shingle is supposed to have 6 nails in it. But does each shingle actually only have 6 nails? No, it's essentially getting 12. So if you look up roofing code on a dimensional shingle, this is dimensional, for 4 nails to 6 nails, by adding 2 extra nails, you get a higher wind rating of like 60 miles per hour more. Just by adding 2 nails. That's essentially 4 nails per shingle. So A lot of people will skimp on that and tell you they done 6, but make sure to watch them when you're roofing your house. Then I start my whole design over again. So now I'm starting with a full one. It is. How much time how am I doing on time? Okay. So I'm able to incorporate science with talking slightly about the water and the weather patterns. There's not a lot of science here. The engineering process with the design tank actually has them go through the full engineering process. Okay, so you're establishing what the problem is and what the client needs. Then we're able to talk about water, like I said. And then another thing we can talk about is, just for instance, when you're hammering, like I was holding back here because my hammer is heavier, so it takes less to get. So if I go there, or takes more energy. Right. So I was able to work with a lot of students over that. I know this you doing that. But
Yeah.
my wife does the same thing. She repeats this too.
Well, see, now I learned something I know how to.
Yeah. So, but it's all about the leverage. You're able to, and my principal came in, and he has a background in construction. He said the whole same thing. So my dad's always said growing up, don't be a woodpecker. Hit the nail. All right. Leverage. All right, you all can have a seat. Any questions over that so far? Anybody miss out on hammering that wants to try it real quick? Anybody at all? Thank you all for participating. I appreciate that very much. I'm going to show this video if I can get the mouse to work. Yes. This added up quickly. So funding for my material, Dale was able to secure funding. Like I said, I'm doing this project again. I'm saving this mock-up. It's going to go in my garage. I will go back and carefully pull nails out and save shingles, but eventually they're going to wear out. So my brother-in-law owns a roofing business, and I'm going to talk to his supplier about saving batches of off colors and just putting them aside and maybe giving to me discounted or free. ABC Supply here in Bowling Green is one of the biggest roofing suppliers in the United States. I could probably go to them and tell them what I'm doing and say, hey, and they get bundles returned all the time that might be, hey, that's supposed to be charcoal black. I went out and replaced 3 bundles on someone's house just because the color didn't match. So a lot of times if the roofer sees that, they just pull those bundles aside, and all they're going to do is throw them in the trash anyways. So they'd probably give them to you. And just different things like that. So it'd be hard to just come up with out of the blue. It'd be expensive. But like I said, this summer, I'm going to really focus on gathering scrap, because a partial bundle they throw away most of the time. So I can probably get my brother-in-law to give me a partial bundle. Drip edge is not that expensive. The starter's kind of expensive, not super bad. So it's all within reason. I mean, it just depends. You could also do the same type of project with flooring. I mean, there's nothing different about flooring.
you still have underlayment, you still have segment additions, you still have all that. And then you wouldn't have to have as much of a mock-up. You could just use a piece of OSB. You could do the same thing with building a doghouse and then sell it. So my thought is, if I was able to get a construction math class going, I would build picnic tables. Octagon picnic tables are extremely difficult to build. There's a ton of geometry in it. So we would build geometry shapes. We could sell the picnic tables, dog houses. You can cover almost the entire geometry curriculum with a dog house. So then you could turn around and sell that just for call spaces. And your community will shine in ways like that. They'll buy that just to support that organization. So there's ways around it. It's just having the drive, I guess. I'm trying to show you a video real quick, if I can get the mouse to cooperate. Okay, hold on. I don't know why y'all can't hear that at all, can you? I'm gonna start back here. All right. Any other questions? Yes. I had 0 girls that said, I do not want to do this. I had 2 boys that I had to get an alternate assignment for. 0 girls refused to use the hammer. Like I said, 2 boys wanted alternate assignment and 1 or 2 didn't want a hammer in class. They used the utility knife or the snips or something, but they would not swing a hammer in front of anybody. So the girls really stepped up. So I tell you what, there was a girl in there always, I mean, she was the typical, always hair, perfect place, everything. And she got up there and 3 hits, that nail was in. She turned to a boy, gave him a hammer, said, beat that. So, I mean, it was very, and Dale was there, he can attest to this. Everybody was engaged in the lesson. They were excited to get out of the classroom. They were excited to go down to the shop. Even if it was just answering questions or getting material or something, everybody was engaged. So my students was able to benefit tremendously from this. And I was able to gain some trust from some of them that typically don't trust a teacher, because I gave them a knife. I mean, so any other questions?
Kurtis, I say this, like, with STEM, some people have that concept or that idea that, oh, a STEM career is some scientist in the lab, somewhere in the lab, or someone behind a computer in Silicon Valley. Really, I mean, there's so many local opportunities.
There are.
A lot of technical based positions do need that STEM.
So I was talking to an electrician. He is 32 years old, and he goes and renews his license every how often he has to do it. And he is consistently the youngest person to come and do it in our area. So most of your electricians are hitting retirement, the age of retirement. Most of your plumbers are hitting the age of retirement. There are several students in my class who are like, college isn't for me. I don't care about college. And I tell them that's fine. Learn a trade. A plumber makes a ton of money, especially a good plumber. HVAC. So we are remodeling a building right now for my wife to open a speech clinic in Hart County. And we had to call someone out to look at the HVAC because I know nothing about HVAC. For him to get in his vehicle and drive out there and tell me that the fan was out and it needed to be replaced was $90. So that took him 10 minutes, charged us $90. So there's money to be made in your technicians and your technical schools, a lot of money.